Teri Chindanibe ge Tse Nishu Tu Nimade, and EU Pimidinzu ge, and Uti, Sikyong Dr Lobsang Sangay, and Tanda Canada ge, Trezo, Tanda Ottawa Jasana Yudinge ge, Trezo Nalola, any Romi Topdanda, any Ji ge, Tajik, Rawange, any Sojung ge, any Hitola, to Snifu Nambre, any Chitange, Tarenge, Chinanguya, Junzo Jide, Canada Trezore, and then Lockton do Tajik Canada ge, Tajik Shungutoni in the Nange, Tajik Nedan, Lockton do Tajik Pimi Momuchiki, Ranglu Misetambe, Nedu Tigitoni, and the Pernange, Zadak Nedan Kola, Tangu Netu Kari Ime, Titola, Sikyong Chogi, and Yasan Shubatan, and Tina Shingi, Tatsojungi, Tomi Namazogi Mine, Tigi, Tajik Nedan, Usupigi, and the Shedogi Chedu, and it was Chini, Nishi Tondu this Nansung. And Nishi Tondu Tito Libine, Chitangi, Tuzogi, Tumi Namazogi Mine, Chiraki, Jakjog, Nambatan, Sengu Chibuyebe, and Namjutin Nansung. And the candidate Tuzogi Nishi Tondu To, Tuzo Tumi Namji, Chiloni Don Yelu, Gishigu Chimbi Jesu, Jara Shungi, Pumi, Kansam Zunju Kanya Cheyavatan, Benji Rimbuchi Gitadeneta. Pimi Namji, Mindun Tsumbe Ranchong Gola, Chuzo Chik, Sam Rindu, Chiwa Tang Tishin Kalen Nansung, Tene Sikyong Chogi, Canada Sashota, Nienjin, To Tiwa Tilenda, Canada Kapte Sobe Utiso, Jete Nansung.
A request by the Canadian government will be a test on the part of the Chinese government, their commitment to human rights, and as a member of the United Nations, and also a responsible member of the international community, that as per their pledge as part of the United Nations and member of the Human Rights Council, they do believe in, subscribe in, practice human rights. If that is the case, then a visit by international delegation should be welcome.
Does Beijing have to sign off on a visit by Andrew Bennett, and also have you made an official request to the Canadian government?
I'm making the request publicly and privately also. We will make the request. Now, it will be better if the Chinese government signs off on that on the visit, because you have to go through a process. You have to travel to that area, and just to parachute in that area might not be a thing that the Chinese government might appreciate. So I think the Chinese government has to sign off on that visit. But then they should, because they claim that they do allow Tibetan people to have religious freedom. If that is the case, and the ambassador could visit and monasteries and nunneries and assess the situation for himself.
The Canadian government wants to build a pipeline across Canada to the Pacific Ocean so they can sell more oil and gas to China. What do you think of that?
Now, I don't know the details of the talk, but as we often say, trade is important, but human rights is equally important. And I was told by many parliamentarians and people I've met that human rights, democracy, freedom, rule of law are core principles on which the Canadian Constitution is enshrined, and the Canadian people also believe in, because I remember going to the old City Hall now and then. There was a small space where it says "Speak Up," where as per the Canadian tradition, you're expected to speak up for your rights. So I'm trying to do the best I can on behalf of the Tibetan people, and appealing to the Canadian people and appreciating the support for all these years, and also request that human rights of Tibetan people should be equally important as far along with the trade with China.
The point of my question is Canada's keen to deepen economic relations with China, including selling lots of energy. What do you think of that, and should your issue in any way be connected to that or not?
I hope not, because business is business. Its bottom line is profit margin. from what I've read, there's a trade deficit on the part of the Chinese government or China, meaning China is profiting more from doing business with Canada than other way around. If that is the case, then China is benefiting more with doing business with Canada. Then that means Canadian markets and Canadian resources are more important to China than other way around. Hence, if China gets oil or another natural resources somewhere else cheaper, they will go there. So you're not going to get a concession just because there is resources in Canada. And taking that into consideration, but human rights and democracy are core principles of Canada, and we request and hope that the Canadian government will continue to be supportive of the issue.
At this point, your government is acknowledging the Chinese Communist Party as, it seems to me, as the legitimate ruler of China. Is that a fair assessment? And given that Han Chinese in China suffer similar repression and abuses as minority groups, how do you expect remaining within and under the control of the Chinese Communist Party, even within an autonomous region, would ultimately benefit Tibetan people?
What we are saying is, as far as the policy middle way is concerned, we seek genuine autonomy within China, meaning we will not challenge China's sovereignty and territorial integrity if we are given or provided genuine autonomy for Tibetan people. So we are willing to accept the sovereignty if Tibetans are granted a genuine autonomy. Now, yes, many Chinese people also suffer human rights violations, and these cases are reported. And because we advocate human rights, we do sympathize with other people around the world, including Chinese who suffer human rights violation, and they ought not to suffer. And Chinese government ought to improve human rights condition around the world.
Excuse me, we just have 5 more minutes.
Okay.
If that autonomy, I mean, you've been asking for that autonomy for a long time. If it isn't respected, and at what point do you shift towards, a more aggressive demands or criticisms against the Chinese regime?
As it stands today, middle way is our policy, and genuine autonomy is is what we seek. And then if you look at Hong Kong and Macau, there are disputes. But then to some extent, one country, two system is implemented. Of course, some group will dispute that. Similarly, what we say is within the framework of the Chinese constitution, the genuine autonomy should be granted, not just granted on paper, but actually implemented. If that is the case, then we will take that as fulfillment on the part of the Chinese government.
Should the government also ask for a parliamentary delegation to go to Tibet?
Yes, I made the request that the Canadian parliamentarians could form a delegation and visit Tibetan areas in Tibet. Will be also positive in assessing the situation, along with the Ambassador Andrew Bennett. And also, I was told that the Canadian Embassy in Beijing have made efforts to go to Tibetan areas, but have not been entertained by the Chinese government.
The contacts that Chinese officials may have had with the Dalai Lama last year, unofficial contacts. I know that the main envoys have resigned, but have there been unofficial contacts with the Dalai Lama, and have they continued or have they decreased since the crackdown on the self-immolations?
The term unofficial is quite subjective. And yes, we do meet with Chinese journalists and scholars. They come to Dharamsala or outside, and we interact with them because from our point of view, we are transparent. And what we say here is what we convey to Beijing through anyone. So whether I meet a Chinese scholar or a Chinese journalist or American or Canadian or European diplomats or scholar, we say exactly the same thing.
Canada က October နဲ့ နေစုဖြူငယ် ထင်ကမတော်ကြီး